Welcome back. This is Upfront, and we are awaiting an outcome on this a little later. The African National Congress is hosting its second special virtual lekgotla today. The main item on the agenda is the country's economic crisis, particularly in the light of the 7 months of the COVID-19 lockdown. eNCA's political editor, Voyo Mvoko, is watching that story for us. So obviously, Voyo, good afternoon to you in the newsroom. Economic recovery plans will take centre stage, particularly given that the economy of this country, GDP, shrank by 51% on an annualized basis. It's the biggest shrinkage since 1960. We expect this to be taken very seriously by the party.
Indeed. The question, though, is whether it will be taken as seriously as all of us think it should or should be the case. Because if you've observed how these things work over time, you realize that while everybody agrees on what is wrong and that something needs to be done, the question becomes what then should be done and how urgently must this task be undertaken. You listen to the Minister of Finance, who I understand made a presentation at the lekgotla. What he says doesn't find expression when the Economic Transformation Committee of the ANC speaks. What he says doesn't find expression when some of his own cabinet colleagues make statements. What he says doesn't find expression when the government puts forward its position at NEDLEC. The question then becomes, who is he speaking for? So the bigger question then today will be whether what he put forward and what the Economic Transformation Committee put forward through your eNCA, who is the chairperson of that committee, and what their comrades think need to happen, notwithstanding their conference resolutions. What is it that they can put before the nation later on today, if and when President Cyril Ramaphosa does indeed come forward to make those concluding remarks, which I was told earlier could just be, that session could be open for us to cover and broadcast.
I'm a little confused. We seem to be looking at a lot of plans and there's a lot of waiting. Where does this fit into the multi-consensus plan that has been agreed to at NEDLAC?
Well, the president, a few weeks ago when he addressed editors, said the consensus had been reached and it would be made public. Nothing like that has, of course, happened. But from what I hear, it is not as simple as that. Business and labor in particular are particularly outraged that the government cannot agree to something like, prohibiting senior politicians of the ANC and their families from doing business with the state. They think that would be a good beginning, and it would send a very strong message to South Africans that the ANC is now really walking the talk. And consensus can be found over that issue, which deals with the other pandemic that we are facing, which is corruption. So if you come from there, you then wonder why the ANC wouldn't want something like that would inspire so much confidence, but that will also deal in a very realistic way with the problems we are challenging. Why is the ANC dilly-dallying in that? And is the government stance informed by what is going on behind the scenes within the ANC? And the arrests of so many people last week don't make that meeting any easier, or arriving at a consensus with regard to that point any easier. So I am not holding my breath. The likely outcome this time around is that all the right things will be said once again. But as to whether the ANC will indeed walk the talk, we will have to wait and see. But at this stage, it doesn't look like there's going to a significant departure from what we have said over and over again in the past.
Is this meeting primarily focused on economic recovery, or, as you've mentioned, is it also going to come out with some kind of statement on corruption? As you've said, it was a busy week last week. I think one Sunday newspaper calling it a week of handcuffs. Can we expect anything on, or anything further on the state of corruption, the crisis in the country?
Well, whether it's anything further is a different matter. I am sure you're going to hear statements like, we condemn corruption and we are happy with what you see, seeing people be arrested. We hope they will indeed be successfully prosecuted and so on. But will it go to, why, for example, Jeremy, is the lifestyle audits issue still hanging? I mean, we've been talking about it over and over again. Promises were made that it was a matter of time before that becomes a reality. It still hasn't become that reality. You look at NEDLEC, which is another step which that the social partners are proposing in this big fight against corruption. But again, things are stuck at that point where the government is refusing to budge. What will have happened this past weekend to move these issues forward is, of course, the big question. The president coming under enormous pressure from COSATU, which has been his ally and promoter and biggest supporter all along. It probably suggests that COSATU feels it's really a waste of time. Nothing will come of it. We'll hear the president saying once again that he's condemning all the things that need to be condemned and something needs to be done about the next step. But acting will be a completely different matter.
Yeah, not the first time we've heard that script playing out. Political editor Vuyo Mvoko, thank you. We await that briefing with a great deal of interest. It is very, very important.